Hello everyone! The second guest of Touch of Future SYNCc is Tsunehiro Uno, a renowned Japanese critic and a contemporary of mine. As a fellow editor, he consistently delves into the pressing issues of modern society and explores solutions with remarkable clarity. His latest book, The Story of a Garden, left a deep impression on me by articulating something I've been grappling with. In a world dominated by platforms where people are reduced to numbers and money, have we forgotten the essential joy of creation? His insights made me reflect on how I've been spending my time, caught up in management, stock prices, and the metrics of the digital age. As someone who has dedicated years to writing, music, flower arrangement, and content creation, I realized how easy it is to lose sight of what truly matters. Research shows that the greatest source of happiness comes from primary industries, growing food, fishing, and ranching. Simple, hands-on work that connects us to humanity. This isn't just a personal dilemma, it's a global issue. So, while our conversation today will be in Japanese, I wanted to share this opening in English. With that, let's dive in. Here we go.
If I read that book thoroughly in that podcast, Tokyo make it interesting, 100. Yes, so fishing. This is the second time, and today you made an appearance in a drawing by a critic. I'm truly thankful.
Yes, thank you very much.
The story of Shinken Garden was very interesting. It was great.
I think so too. Already, so about 100 times as much as now. I hope it spreads.
You know, me, I'm done with Uno-san. After all, it's worn across generations. Well, we are the same editors. All kinds of things. I really sympathize with the fact that there was a commonality. You did indeed. The first is platform dependent. This is the problem. Could you tell me this for a moment?
Me? Well, that's what I've been saying ever since I published the book Thin Internet 4 years ago.
A little bit. We're a little,
Well, more opposed to platform capitalism than I am myself. It doesn't work well.
well, for example, the problem of internet popularity, which has been a hot topic for a long time. There is one thing. So as for how to dismantle this,
There is such a thing as platonic capitalism. So, this is something like this. I think I'm saving all those people. Good, once you get in, everyone. I think that being able to speak up is a great thing for parents and children. For example, people in a weak position in the country,
so-called, there was no weapon to speak out against that world. That it was now able to raise its voice. You get a weapon, and I think this is a great thing for the conditions. However, on the other hand, apparently humans are the focus of communication. This is also clear.
you do it very well.
To phrase it in an exceedingly unpleasant manner, individuals who literally possess nothing, in other words, are infrequently recognized for their accomplishments, and their relationships seldom suffer as a result. For such a person, in order to sustain his self-respect,
What's performing best right now?
probably in Japan, X means making statements about grades.
That too.
As much as possible.
If you firmly stand in a far-right or far-left position, you will be inclined to speak ill of opposing forces.
Extremely effective. If you are often approved by that ally, in a good way, reports will be collected. The approval you get from such a thing is, for about 3 days. Well, it might be something I'll just erase, but what is the ability to spend on one post? It doesn't take any effort at all. I can probably do it in about 30 seconds.
What if it was like this?
The material I upload there is also maybe reading the timeline recording.
To people who are hated in the neighborhood, to people who are hated by the connectivity community.
Context as already said. In a way that seems to follow, when I complained about the battle, I quickly received reposts saying that it was still good. It is recognized by that community.
This state of affairs is already in the field of politics, and around 2016, it was already the target of political mobilization, or rather marketing, mainly in the United States.
A story perhaps limited to politics.
I think so.
Well, it's about time. Again, the problem in the first place is that everyone has the ability to communicate. Biasness. If there were about 7 billion human beings, if it has a transmission capacity of about 5.06 billion, it is virtually geologically. This state, once established, when that happens, Web 2.0. I have been promoting something like futurists are. You think it will be human creativity? By having peace of mind ability. But that didn't happen. Most humans are something called creation.
There is no ability to be involved in creation, and there is no motivation in the first place.
Mickey, I had a desire to create that item. If there's no intention to create things, what most people want to do with their ability to communicate is to get approval. Yes, the easiest way to get approval is to punch him and activate him on your side. It's about being sent. So when this happens, which one has the best course performance? When it comes to user behavior, they are talking about topics that they are already talking about with many people. Moreover, the content of that opinion,
Strong against mainstream opinion?
in tone, it's either Jesus or the brain. Shall I do it? It's the most efficient way to get approval.
Both are good,
I thought so.
with the sensitivity of energy that left, right, autumn, white, aoki, justice, white, black, etc. If you give it a lot, energy it comes back here with a bang in the direction of infection. Either way, strong opinions are better.
If you are confused and lack opinions, there won't be many topics and opinions won't be diverse. In essence,
By improving the information environment. I believe overall information diversity is improving. Nevertheless, the information distributed is still, certain aspects are dominant. It has become very strong. This completely hinders the formation of public opinion. Ultimately, being human involves the exchange of approval among us. In a game of mutual evaluation because of SNS, I understand that I am trapped because of SNS platforms. When I try to move the time from the story, my fundamental awareness of the issue is we need to address this.
Beyond the desire for approval, what is a community? Problem? I was raised in a city where things were peculiar as well. After all, it was a suburb of Fukuoka, so, well, that's amazing. In village society, there are a lot of unpleasant human relationships. Afterward, I felt an urge to escape, so I went to Tokyo to attend university. So, but now, about 10 years of mine, everyone says local commentaries. I'm putting it out
No?
originally like that. I don't like being tied down. According to Uno-san, everyone was contemplating moving to Tokai or desiring freedom from such constraints, which was truly impressive. I supported you.
Hey, me too. I hate that too. I mean, now, regarding platform capitalism, I feel like I'm fighting against each other in a TED-like community. Uha and my mother. It's basically that route. It's a community accounting route. So, platform capitalism is increasingly personalizing human beings. This has given rise to IDT anxiety. In order to counter this, we have no choice but to revive collaborative experiences. That's how you say it. There are two levels of opposition to this for me. First of all, what is community? Something like this. Basically, there is a middle-aged center. So, well, communal experience is based on believing in one story. It works, yo. Well, what people say in ethnology is, people who believe that this child has a fox are members of the community. It's about whether you believe a story or not. The story is around the center. If it was Monotaro would say it. I have grandpa and grandma. When there is an article about dogs and monkeys, well, there are those mob character villagers. And when there are demons to be subjugated, now you are Momotaro. In the position of grandpa and grandma are allowed to be at the base. If you have one of the important supporting characters, if you are at the center of the community, it is warm and pleasant. It may be a place, but of a nameless villager, becoming a mob character, etc. And worst of all, hell has become the role of a demon to be subjugated.
a community needs adversaries to maintain unity.
Get rid of them. It's a sport where we can all feel at ease by confirming our position. Well, it's about time for ethnology. That's what anthropology is and people who like it. Additionally, to quote for convenience, to satisfy the left-leaning mindset that critiques capitalism, having an all-embracing community is essential. You need to understand it well. Something like this, that you might argue that the gift economy won't spread, but these places also address the treatment of women and children, considered an outsider or treated as seriously.
I believe it would be beneficial to investigate if something is fair like this. Clearly, I'm introducing them out of convenience, hence concealing such aspects.
In reality, that mischievous imp indeed did quite a few things.
She lost her husband first, who is called a widow at night. Hey, kill women by making them non-evil. It's a culture like, you were tracked down, weren't you? Thus, there are things like that. Conveniently hide it. A holistic community. Break away from capitalism. These are the people who say that the Eastern economy is great because there is no proliferation.
I'm really a criminal.
I think so, but let me be clear. It's convenient to discuss issues between the center and the periphery of the community.
That's just one point I'm concealing. For instance, platforms tend to have a strong affinity with communities. I mean, something like this. In the timeline, evil is abruptly condemned during a period when wrongdoers are prominent. At times like that, roughly, the enemies in that area will be hit. So for instance, a relatively progressive humanities, scientific researchers, something like that. Those who are fans of cultural theory and culture. Within this group, cool businessmen are often criticized. Ministers are all at once, so by hitting the neighborhood, when you earn a cushion, you can say something like, there's a good place to stand out in the conversation. Isn't this a community, completely? Platforms are information because the speed of replacement is fast. Platforms, SNS platforms, create communities in an instant and dismantle them in an instant. Let's move on to the next topic. But what this means, on the other hand, is that, well, there is some kind of community. When we try to maintain the community in our neighborhood, we change enemies from notification to notification. One time I hit Mr. A, another time Mr. B works. At that time, Mr. C was still high, and if we changed our enemies appropriately, we could always protect our commonality. So something like this, the platform and its community, both after all, it's relationship-centered, create the basics and gather allies. The logic applies to both, therefore, some kind of platform? That's what I mean, something like this, in the natural flow of the timeline. If you place your trust in us, we will collaborate. New teaching materials emerge, but by using this platform, we can sustain the collaborative spirit. Therefore, platforms align well with communities, and despite the rise of East Rotor, platform capitalism will endure. In reality, it's truly remarkable. That place I'm hunting right now, it's like a group or a joint experience. Basically, citizen movements and things like that are jointly presented using platforms. That's the case with Quanon circles. After all, what is a platform? That. It is extremely effective at making adversaries and redefining boundaries, making the platform and community joint ventures. So I'm rather something that, even though humans run away from us, they always ask for it from the community. I think you'll make it without dislike it. That's why even if a moment in a human's life, it's like you're free from the community. Public spaces are about reintroducing areas to our world. Creating spaces that can actively compete with platforms is crucial, and I use that metaphorically. That.
Chatting is okay. I do a lot, but annually I consume food just once. In my opinion, the friendship of a person is the greatest I understand. If you think about it carefully, it's like Buddha. There are not thousands of people linked in that manner grasp. 100 kilometers to hundreds of people in the store. Have a conversation with him.
Isn't that what it means?
I think that was the case even in the Edo period for ordinary people. So here it is. Various bugs. I was wondering if it was happening. I'm feeling somewhat lonely for quite a while now. Well, let's cut off relationships a little. I think it's okay. Also, when it comes to humans, I'm paying a great deal of attention. I have Aikihara's thinking license. After all, I'm happy to make it. Well, that is what you would call it. That time, a sense of happiness in space. That means approval from others. You don't need it.
Yeah, right. This is deeply rooted in me and the existence of an otaku city. I'm thinking, right? Otaku is after all. Mickey, it's not about relationships, it's about people who value time with the things they love originally. So, well, even when I look back on my own life, of course, this is important to connect with people. By that, those who were supported were healed, but just as much. After all, what you like? Time to savor it alone. It was very important. But those words, SNS platform, truly, human relationships, or humans become like single-celled organisms that only exchange products with each other. So with completely different, Mr. Ot, separate feet. Something, I've never had one, so since I was born, I desire to move smoothly, but walking has never been a real wish of mine. I think this is because his body has a unique desire. However, me and an adult, that X account has no difference in functionality from a Peachback account. This is, after all, efficiently. Own, collecting evaluations, etc. I think it is the platform that brings about a social body that only instills the desire to exchange approval with other players, and it is the platform and the device that makes the human social body probabilistic. East well, but that's why. In order to get those things back properly, I still believe that humans are not human relationships. I put aside things like approving with other people who are evaluated by other people, and I like things. I think it's important to regain the diversification of desires through the things you want and the relationship with those things. That's probably why we're engaged in private discussions and investments.
For others.
However, this is already completely that I felt defeated, particularly the majority of people using SNS are humans. If you're not motivated to create things, I don't have the ability to make things. It's a bad word for people who say what they did as a result. Boast in one word. The main point then is, hence that initial appointment. It's an exchange of approval, isn't it? If you say it, that's the only thing I can do. And then, well, on that large scale, the field of political economy, same Indian logic, marketing and religion. It has come to be used as a system. Well, it's up to the present. So when I got back to talking about the garden, what should I do? During the nascent stage of the internet era, I wonder if being a counter boyfriend will be able to regain my internet dream. After contemplation, there are several potential candidates. The internet again, something like this that if it is not a tool to gain market recognition, it is not used for obtaining approval for shared expenses. I wonder if it is possible to reinterpret the meaning of being a tool for making things. You know about thought events. It's famous that you can't leave, called The Human Condition. There's a book from the 1950s, and there's something like Hannah read. Human activities are classified into 3 categories. But one is labor. This is already to win. Regarding that regular work, it's about labor. So the second is policy, and this is creating things. Hey, the third one, eighthly, this act. This act means that this is a political activity. Among them, Arendt's labor is the best. That's no good, that's no good. It's important, but I'm saying that it's not that big of a deal, or that there's no most important thing with humans. That's why. Because that's the only thing you can work with. Even if you get it, if you eat it, it will become less. So if Unsan dies too, labor is placed at the bottom. And then with the second policy compared to labor, I make things that are left behind, like making pop, making furniture. Well, there are a lot of things, and we make words by just saying things, but the things we make are, fundamentally, it will endure. However, after all, you are bound by your purpose. If you're going to make pop, you have a purpose to make pop, and you can't exceed that. You're saying it's not very creative. I have quite a few objections here, but it's true that Wei is the most wonderful person. That's it. It's an act, right? It's after political activities, but this doesn't require that personality, and there's no correct answer. But let everyone fight their opinions. It's great because you can beat the results a little. Human power is tested, or rather, acts of high creativity. In my activities, I'm saying that this is the most important human condition. I can't help it. That is, things created through production will eventually perish, but Ushijims are eternal as long as some community remains. If you continue to be remembered by someone, you'll end up telling a story that feels like this is the most important thing. By the way, this was written in the 1950s. Arendt. That within her thoughts, she likely senses a threat from the swift mechanization and industrialization of the so-called youthful society. Now, probably in the position of information technology industry, I like the manufacturing industry. Since there was a manufacturing industry in the position of the information industry, the crisis that this too strong power will change the world too much. Today, I think it's just as demanding as the equipment we have in information technology. That's why it's written like this. I'm 20 after all. It's the 20th year of the first century. This is what Kat Arvind thinks when he looks back on the human condition. First of all, labor is, after everything, it's expanding its power underground. In information technology and global capitalism, my presence is increasing. I think so. That's why, that's it. Labor, it means that you get paid for saying that you have worked. It's basically an economic activity. This economic activity, it's a bit like Arendt lowered and piled up. I think there is. But the world that humanity used to be today has become a player in the global market. So from Elon Musk, who is in second place on the way to around 7 billion, until my newborn baby, visual tips like the economic power ranking, middle, practically. Most of us know how much money a financial institution will give us based on this person's social evaluation. I reduced it to some so-called cats, but it's a so-called active setting. The new generation, people called the creative class, maybe something like this or that already. The company you belong to, the rest is my country of birth. When it comes to the country I belong to, I only think of myself as a tag. I think I'm already working anywhere in the world. Something like that. I'm not doing something through the organization, I'm doing it myself. Through this business endeavor, I am making significant contributions to the world and receiving global recognition. After all, I think they think about things on their own. However, this kind of thing is only for a very small part of the power elite, and most people are still old-fashioned. In the 20th century, in a world dominated by manufacturing and labor-intensive, most of it was preparation. So, well, this is the problem of separation. Well, today's internet populism, against a huge backdrop, it's similar, but nevertheless, well, I learned through labor, everyone visualizes their financial value, and it makes sense to know what freedom it is in the world rankings. Furthermore, I am unable to sustain my status in the world rankings in the global standings pertaining to the global economy. The majority of individuals are, as for whether I'm doing it. Right now, it's probably drifting towards politics all at once. Thus, ultimately, every individual possesses one vote. You don't question your ability, do you? Abilities, and individual economic achievements are not understood at all. Who says that? Each person gets one vote, and to put it more, no matter how incompetent a person is, he can say bad things about others. Can you speak ill of your enemy and be praised by your allies? For such people, making political statements is... Unconditional value means that the cost is extremely low. So frankly, what I am compelled to endure is becoming more frequent.
True.
That's right. Being an entertainer and being a formal act is also in a bad way. I think this is a binary confrontation, but the fact that humans are at first of all, a highly capable person is robots eat it. Strengthening from the market, stop and live, people who lost that game, or people who were not of Korean descent from the beginning, political core. I guess it's a favor, isn't it? It's an act called Hanaran, which means it ultimately leads to approval in the community, an endorsement from the perspective of confronting the enemy. Thus, the world is caught between these 2 points, necessitating a third dialogue. And that concept is Arendt. It was made based on the third conversation you mentioned. Humans are like this after all. By creating things, I am in contact with the world. I think it's important to confirm how you feel about the world. This is quite astonishing. Compared to the past, there's GitHub, so the bar is lowered. Without the support of IT, the hurdles remain pretty high. Actually, the Web 2.0 failure lies in the problem that although humans can communicate, they don't focus on creativity. We didn't reach the point of creating because of market and community evaluations. It's the defeat of the internet stream. How to get it back is what I do in the second half of this book.
Also that Uno-san, myself, because I'm an editor, interview, write the language, that moment, that feels good. Well, that's why a prime example is gold. If you have 40 years, I am after all, that's it. Nasty job. It's a truly unpleasant job, I suppose. Well, I always end up choosing jobs I don't really like, just for the high salary. Rather than spending those golden 40 years, do what you like. Spend 40 golden years. Yes, I believe I can enjoy a great meal with this. That's a significant transformation of that perspective on life. I believe it will also result in a trend of reversed happiness. Now that's usually play with knowledgeable, durable intellectual class. Fiddling with numbers and accessing computers has become very high-end. For example, American. According to a statistical survey, the #1 happiness. It's a primary industry, animal husbandry and fishing. That's what it is after all. Things that I made, such as the feel of hair, I can sell my real hands and make a living from them. Then fishing and the fish I caught, sold, and that's it. For those kind of people, the primary industry is overwhelmingly more. You have a high level of happiness. So, to elaborate, securities, finance, etc. A person who earns tens or hundreds of millions, what is the happiness level of? It's very low. America? Yeah, and
So what?
so the current one, poverty. Or Mr. Morinaga's way of living on 3 million yen. Myself, while money holds significance, you can work 8 hours a day, or one day. Well, a long span of life, for example. You can think about it in terms of 80 years, but in that time, I'm obsessed. I think the happiest thing is to be able to run through those 80 years instead of amassing vast amounts of wealth.
I don't have a lot. I think it would be a good idea to reconsider the production again. So I thought about the reason I'm using it in my head. Rather than just coming up with an idea, it's really my feeling. In fact, I'm curious about my actions during the creation process. Therefore, this book, when I'm writing something related to this book like this, I feel immense joy whenever I appear on media and deliver speeches. Yet the responsibility falls on me to independently promote this book through extensive effort. It's amazing when we're interacting, something like that. I wonder what my life is all about. It's an important thing. That's precisely why it has to be me, and it's absolutely fine to do that. After all, I feel a sense of fulfillment. After all, when I'm making things like this, it's physically exhausting to stay up all night in this city, but subjectively, I'm happy. I'm very happy. I put together the theory based on this actual feeling. I went this time. It's really very honest in that sense.
I thought it was a new theory of happiness because it's a cloud root. I used to be a musician. When I'm completely addicted to playing football, even if I don't sleep for 10 or 12 hours anymore, it will pass in a mere blink of an eye. After all, having conversations like this and writing language, well, if you keep creating content, I've been concentrating all the time. So during that time, it appeared in that original, and after all, what? Or perhaps happiness? Well, I'm truly obsessed. In the famous words, what is genius? Super big hint. On the mountain, there is a saying that he is the boy who climbed to the top. Well, that is what I believe. Yes, it is. Something like that. For example, I'm a grant. I'll absolutely do it, though. I examine financial expenses and similar matters. I don't really like it. I'm not good at it. After all, I'm finally back. Go back! Well, this future SYNCc, it's that place, returning to the previous coverage and interview. I thought I wanted to hear the story. This time already. It's also a flow, community, and after policies, then identity authorization, then the rest is happiness after all. That's a theory.
Well, I believe you're discussing a concept you don't truly believe in, likely influenced by the pervasive impact of social media platforms. Enlightenment of mutual evaluation. We have been doing it for 365 days. I'm being forced to do it. That's why. So solve this problem when it occurs. What should I do to do this? If you doubt whether this problem is a problem, the incentive to do so is very low. Instead, look at the faces around you, read the income on the timeline, and buy it. When you make a statement like this, myself, from a community that wants to be valued or so approved, it's more advantageous to speak only with the idea that you'll get a lot of chatter. Everyone starts to lie when they say a word. You'll start posting positions. So I think this is a problem that I can't make fun of. When that happens, nowadays, the media basically aggregates and introduces bottom-up opinions on SNS. So it started to happen. Either way, the media has to do things like earn impressions and charge for subscription. The lighting of the typeline and the direction of media information are integrated. It's stone. When you do, all the information in the media becomes a position talk. Of course, I think it was originally called position talk. Tara, something like this. The recipient's side is media bias and so on. The components of that position talk, well, make use of that literacy. I must acquire it at a reduced price, but that's what is the verification cost, but I think it's gone up a lot now. When that happens, the information already circulating in the media is too expensive for verification courses. You will decide that it is better not to take it in the first place. What will happen when that happens is that people with high abilities and strong connections when you start reading primary information live, you can verify the basic information released by the United Nations yourself. You can verify the information provided by the US military yourself. Of course, that's better. No matter who you are, you're at the top of the position. There are quite a few, but for some reason, those huge organizations have a clear position, so the verification cost is low. On the contrary. So several such occurrences are comparable to your own. It can retrieve location data efficiently. Exchange opinions. You're kind of judging the situation. So yeah, that's why they don't give back to the media at all. And that's actually happening. The truth is that the rich don't fight. I'm quite certain that's happening. And on the contrary, that connection report. How should one manage people with low blood pressure? That, nutshell, you're getting caught up in conspiracy theories more and more. It's like QAnon in the worst case. This makes it overwhelming. The increase in the cost of verifying information in the media means the decisive information gap is where I was born. That's what I think. So this is strange, that scientific division of society, it will be strengthened, and in other words, it seems to be a prerequisite for democracy, to form something function that is like this. Of course, the masses aren't smart because they're so large. Oh well, Kare, wrong. Based on the trust that we will not miss too much. Democracy is built, right? In the past, I've accidentally chosen people, but that only happens once every 5 or hundreds of years. For now, it's still road doctrine, so I came to it like it was good, but I think that's the premise that this is now at stake. So how do you deal with this? I mean, should I be able to trick the soul? Well,
However, Mr. Uno still has the problem of populism. You wrote it, didn't you? Not Hitler, though.
no, well, let me think. This issue of populism or something similar to it, even if you say that the public is stupid, I don't think it can be helped. Oh yeah, it may be stupid, but it's the thing of social drop footy to still manage to do it. That's right, even if I say that, I'm kind of smart, but I think it only serves to appeal. Hey, even if you mention matters like Chinese politics. Well, what I'm contemplating is, well, first and foremost, it's evident now. The entire human race is addicted to transmission, so no matter how you think about it, express your opinion on something. The fact that it is communicated based on gender stereotypes and approved by an unspecified number of people has also occurred in a narcotic manner, so unless we take steps to alleviate this situation, it is likely to persist. It's extraordinarily enjoyable. I'll resolve it with something like that. There's nothing more I can do. That Mickey, as I have mentioned so far, it will be impossible unless we go back to that level and resolve it, such as the way global capitalists work and the way they hold IDT. That's why this book is. Well, the slow internet back then was an attempt to solve media problems within the media. The feet in the garden this time have a huge skeleton. In order to solve the media problem we in high school, there are issues with working conditions, issues with defensive space. You stop and think about issues such as the basic system of democracy. So, something concerning our everyday existence. Something like this with that family. Something like this that... Until just now, I was the basic unit that makes up such a society. As you said, more loneliness buys society in units of one person. I thought we had to switch to thinking about society in groups, not an intermediate community. Humans are basically made up of one person. And what does one person think?
Communication, community, and collaboration. It's not like the body. Well, it's called a platform. Somehow, I'm on the other hand. I spend my time engaging with others. I don't have time. Just a thought. Well, recently, especially since it's from an earlier time, this continues the theory of loneliness. Face yourself. Things you truly desire and things you genuinely enjoy. What I really love. My life. Think properly. That means me. I'm a super classic. Vestiles, Plato, Socrates. Buddha and Geisels. All the Harmads in the world. Meditating alone. You're really pushing the limits with it. But that, Senes, etc. 2 is 2 times Senes, etc. Well, that's just killing time with stories. Because I'm lonely, rather than saying, I don't know. Well, it's not Uno's book, but after all. Reading a book or something. Thinking about things. Additionally, it's the moment to reflect and face yourself. It's better... Wow, now big. I definitely believe it's something. Various traps are present. After all, that time for each part. I'll be taken. There are many traps. Beyond that, that kind of thing becomes free. A little myself. It's far better to face it and be lonely. Community, rather than community. I think it's necessary.
After all, it's a weak creature. After all, even in the community, we put it together, and I think there are some parts of the edition that cannot be broken. So because of me, I think that community has nothing to do with complicity. Platforms. In order to get along well with the community, that person did something, alone with things, a time and place where you can face it purely. I think it's important. In this book, I symbolically used the term garden. For some reason, we too in this society, such platforms and communities need to put a little distance away and face things purely on our own. The method to install the specific time and place, think that I want to reconsider, that's why. So let me see. Lately, my next book is about ramen and meditation. Mystery essay is supposed to be released. That's already happening. Because that's right, already that's what meditation is all about, as Mr. Ota said earlier, now that I'm lonely. It's time to prototype, time to deepen your thoughts. Ramen is rather a beast. It became right in front of you. I faced that thing with all my might, and what I like about ramen is because I think it's pure food. That's it. Even if several people go to eat ramen, that's because you have to face the target with all your might the moment you move. Sometimes it's unnecessary. An exchange of social status or approval. General review, humans have stopped everything such as prices in front of them in today's melon, so
Indofulness, exactly.
hence a creature termed ramen, by going back and forth between the world of God and meditation. Something human like this, the desire for approval magnifies the human world, which has appeared quite a bit in that economic evaluation. That kind of worldview, I'm writing an essay. So talking about gardens is an environmental theory after all. After all, I say this to society, for example, the state of labor, the state of public space, etc. After all, it is a Japanese story to try to adjust our emotions by re-examining the way we deal with the information industry. So, Mr. Taiki, after all, ramen and meditation are such a world, so how should we live? It's somewhat amusing, and what I'm articulating runs parallel to the concept of the next person's ramen, don't you think?
This, as a bookstore clerk, stories about gardens are also sold in the gardening section. Speaking of ramen, when it comes to ramen food, it will be placed in this corner.
No, that's why I listen to Cat Podcast. The person who is there, that's not the case. I want to read Mr. Uno's book. There are quite a few things you can tell me. So if the book eventually becomes famous after all, it is said that Japanese stories are a very popular topic after all. When I said everyone wanted to read it, it was the same. It is stacked flat. Ramen and meditation are also good. So if everyone listening to this podcast thought my story today was even a little interesting, definitely something. If you could read something and give me your impressions, those words are kind of buried in this. I think my book will also live. Thank you very much.